First and foremost, all praises are due to Yahawah Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Rakak Badash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone for teaching us His truth. Salutations to the brothers around the four corners of the earth who are teaching this word in truth and sincerity. And shalom to the hopeful elect of Israel who listen and believe in this word. This is Brother Karatas Abad coming at you with another lesson. This one is entitled Yahawah, the Most High, set apart Jacob for himself. For himself. So we're going to start off with second address, the third chapter, and we're going to go down to verse 12. And it happened that when they that dwelt upon the earth began to multiply and had gotten them many children and were a great people, they began again to be more wickedly than the first. So this is referring to after the flood with Noah. After the flood came down and it decreased. Of course, you had Noah had three sons, Shem, Japheth, and Ham. They repopulated the earth, okay, through their seed. But once the earth became repopulated again, the people became even more wicked than before the flood. So the people began to be act more wickedly than ever before, okay? So second address, the third chapter, in the 13th verse. Now when they lived so wickedly before thee, thou didst choose thee a man from among them, whose name was Abraham. So he chose Abraham, okay, as to bring his chosen seed out of. Because the people were so wickedly, he wanted to choose one person that was a righteous man to actually put a seed that was a chosen people. And that would end up being, of course, Jacob, and then later known as Israel. Second address, the third chapter, the 14th verse. Him thou choosest, and unto him only thou shewest thy will. Verse 15. And madest an everlasting covenant with him. So that's the covenant he made with, of course, through Jacob, all right? And then Jacob had 12 sons, the 12 tribes of Israel, okay? He made the covenant with them. The first covenant, of course, was the old covenant in the Old Testament. And the new covenant will be when Yahawah Shai comes back with the chariots to extract the elect first, the 1/3 on this side, and then the 2/3 will be born through, the 2/3 that didn't make it, on this side will be born through the 1/3 in the kingdom during that 1,000-year reign with Yahawah Shai. And that new covenant will be new bodies. The law, statutes, and commandments will be in our inward parts. We're not going to go off. We're going to be totally righteous. All right, let's read this again. Second Esdras 3 and verse 15. And made us an everlasting covenant with him, promising him that thou wouldest never forsake his seed. Second Esdras 3 and verse 16. And unto him thou gavest Isaac, and unto Isaac also thou gavest Jacob and Esau. As for Jacob, thou didst choose him to thee, and put by Esau, and put off Esau, basically. So he set apart Jacob and put off Esau, and they were born from the same mother. And so Jacob became a great multitude. So that's amazing that Yahawah chose Jacob. They were born of the same mother in the same womb, but he set apart Jacob as his seed, okay, from which came a great multitude. And that was a promise that he had made to Abraham. Let's get a precept for that. Let's go to, and we're going to go down, we're going to read verse 15. And the angel of the Lord called unto Abraham out of heaven the second time. Verse 16, and said, by myself have I sworn, saith the Lord, for because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thine only son. And he was referring to when Yahawah asked Abraham if he would sacrifice his son, Isaac. And Abraham was set to do it, and it was a test of faith. Yahawah didn't have him go through with it, but that was a test of faith that he would sacrifice his son Isaac to show faith in Yahawah. And so that was a great thing, a great test of faith that Abraham showed to Yahawah. So because of that, he made his seed as the sand of the sea. Genesis 22 and verse 17. That in blessing I will bless thee, And in multiplying, I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore. And thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. You see? So basically, through all the scatterings of the Hebrew Israelites from the Assyrian captivity, and then you had the 10 tribes that migrated approximately circa 700 BC, migrated to North America and South America. All right, then you had the Babylonian captivity, and then you had the Persian captivity, the Greek captivity. Then you had the Romans that finally took over in the area of Israel and Jerusalem. And then in 70 AD, you had the Jew diaspora, where the Romans finally attacked the 3 tribes, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, in 70 AD. And many of us migrated out of Israel, Jerusalem, into the western part of Africa, the northern part of Africa, some parts of of Asia, the Far East. So through those scatterings and captivities, Israel increased, okay, as far as being a multitude. They increased in population up until this day. So that's why when it says it's like the sands of the sea, there's many Hebrew Israelites that look like the country that they're in, but they're Hebrew Israelites based on the fact that you are who your father is. So an Israelite man who had intercourse with other women from other nations, that child is an Israelite. So we are like the sand of the sea, and we are spread out all over the world. We're a great big multitude. Now only 1/3, the hope for elect, okay, the elect will be beamed up in the chariots on this side on the day of the Lord when Yahawah comes back. And then the other 2/3 that don't make it, that are going to be caught up in that lake of fire, the nuclear bombs from Russia and the other nations, and the laser fire coming from the chariots, they're going to be born through the sea, through the loins of the 1/3 that make it into the kingdom during that 1,000-year reign with Yahawah. So indeed, all of us will be saved in the end, but it's going to be a great big multitude of people. So it can't even be numbered how many Hebrew Israelites there are around the world. All right. So let's continue on. Let's go to another precept that I have. Let's go to Malachi, Old Testament here. We have Malachi 1, chapter 1, and verse 1. And this is, of course, it says here, God, Yahweh's love for Jacob. Malachi 1 and verse 1. The burden of the word of the Lord to Israel by Malachi. Verse 2. I have loved you, saith the Lord. Yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith the Lord? Yet I love Jacob. So he's saying, I loved you. Even though Esau was Jacob's brother, I chose you. I loved you, even though they came from the same womb. And of course, Esau is the so-called white man, the Edomite, the devil walking the planet Earth. All right. So let's continue on. Verse 3. And I hated Esau and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Now, throughout the Old Testament, especially during the time of King David, the Edomites were, many of them were killed by King David. He killed a lot of Edomites. All right. And they were, constantly being killed, constantly being, driven from various lands. And they only recently got power in 1492, okay, for a short spell. Prior to that, from approximately 300 AD to approximately 1300 AD, they were in the Dark Ages, all right? The Byzantine Empire, the eastern part of the Holy Roman Empire, was ran by Hebrew Israelites. Many of your European kings and queens were Hebrew Israelites. So they just recently, for a short spell, have had power, okay? And Yahawah allowed that to happen. And that was known as the Renaissance, the rebirth of the Edomites, circa the 1400s. And then with Christopher Columbus, he came to the New World, and they started to enslave Hebrew Israelites in 1600 AD, okay? So they just recently came into power. It's been a very short reign, and it's about to be over. Their system is breaking down. So they did rule for a short spell. But prior to that, they really didn't have much power, so to speak. Here and there you had Alexander, of course, who was for the Greeks. He was in power for a short time. But if you really look at the history of it, their main power, okay, the longest they've really been in power has been from approximately 1400 AD until the present time today. Let's get another precept. Let's go to Romans chapter 9. Romans chapter 9, verse 13. And it reads as thus: As it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. So he hates Esau. Like I said, he set you apart for himself, but he hates Esau. Romans 9 and verse 14. What shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with Yahawah? Lord forbid. Romans 9 and 15. Mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. Basically, he's saying, I'll do whatever the hell I want to do. Yahawah saying, I'll do whatever I want to do. So if I want to set apart Jacob for himself, if I want to, put Esau and Jacob in the same womb and hate one and love the other, I can do that. I'm Yahawah. I do whatever I want to do. So let's continue on. Let's get another precept. Let's go to Deuteronomy 32 and verse 9. And it reads as thus: For the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. So he chose Jacob, okay, later named Israel. He had 12 sons, the 12 tribes of Israel. So we are his people. We are the apple of his eye. That's going to be in the next verse, by the way, anyway. Deuteronomy 32. He found him in a desert land and in the waste howling wilderness. He led him about. He instructed him. He kept him as the apple of his eye. Of course, that's referring to when Moses and the Hebrew Israelites left Egypt. They were in the wilderness for 40 years, and he looked after us during that time for 40 years in the wilderness, fed us, gave us instruction, etc. Let's see what else we have here. Let's go to another precept, Isaiah 41. So these scriptures are just showing you that he set us apart for himself. We are the apple of his eye. Isaiah, let's see here. We have, I can find it here, Salakia. Sometimes this thing just messes with my Isaiah. We have chapter 41, and we have verse 8. And it reads as thus: But thou, Israel, art my servant, Jacob, whom I have chosen, the seed of Abraham, my friend. Wow, that's, he said the seed of Abraham, my friend. So we are really friends with Yahawah. Now, we've been reconciled, with Yahawah through Yahawah, because, we went off so bad in the Old Testament, violating the laws, statutes, and commandments. He sent prophets, but we continue to want to be like the other nations and be wicked and do wickedly. So he sent Yahawah as a propitiation, as a mediator, so to speak, to reconcile, himself back with us through Yahawah. Now, the final process will be when Yahawah comes and he extracts the elect, the 1/3 on this side, and then the 2/3 that'll be born in the kingdom. That'll finalize everything. We'll be back in, full reconciliation with Yahawah. He will truly be our friend. All right. So we should be fortunate that he didn't wipe us off the planet, because he could do that in the snap of a finger, just like that. So let's see what we have here. Isaiah 41. Let's read this again. Isaiah 41 and verse 8. But thou, Israel, art my servant, Jacob, whom I have chosen, the seed of Abraham, my friend. Verse 9. Thou whom I have taken from the ends of the earth, and called thee from the chief men thereof, and said unto thee, Thou art my servant. I have chosen thee, and not cast thee away. And like I said, he could have cast us away very, very easily. He could have chosen another people, but he didn't. He made that promise to Abraham that he would not cast us away. All right? And we know that it's impossible for Yahawah to lie. He's not the author of confusion, as the scripture says. So let's continue on. Let's go to, I think I have one more scripture and I'll be done. Let's go to Deuteronomy 7. I meant to read this before, but it doesn't matter. Still goes with it. Deuteronomy 7 and verse 6. And it reads as thus: For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. Okay? You see? So indeed, Yahawah the Most High did set apart Jacob, Israel, for himself. So on that note, I want to give all praises to Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahawah Shai, Ba'ashem Rakak Wadash. I hope this lesson was edifying to you. Shalom.